Aren't there other units to bother?
We made it. Looks like there's a long tunnel ahead. What are all the sounds? My head is hurting. I can't think clearly. We should start moving down to the left. I feel fine. Of course you do, but I'm feeling sick. I think I'm gonna be... Throws up blood onto the floor. Oh, my head. We need to get moving. See what we can find.
I need to kill something. That's a certain kill. Let's go.
These infected were subjected to the Tempest a very long time ago. Now they are mere shadows shambling around with little purpose. Waiting termination. Chamber 1 and 2.
Bullseye.
Interesting.
Bullseye.
Very interesting. Chambers 3 and 4. Fresh specimens, faster, but exhibit the same behaviors as old specimens. They cannot be directly controlled, but can be treated like a hero, like a herd, made to move in certain directions. Okay.
Your sniper at your service.
So what have you been playing lately, War of Honor? Are you still playing Tab? Or are you playing something else? Chambers 5 and 6. These special infected have transfigured over time, their personalities driving the mutation. While useful as weaponized infected, they still cannot be controlled directly. Chubbies and harpies, huh? We'll keep our... Oh, spitters! Spitters! Oh my god.
Who do you want me to punish? I need to explode.
Okay, well, I was trying to live and let live around here, but you guys made that impossible, didn't you?
Death sentence.
Didn't you?
Death. Lovely.
Wasn't me. It was them. You playing the new,
Let's go.
New Vegas mod, or are you just playing Fallout 4?
That's a certain kill.
Derived from the prosperous, the suited individuals are the most affluent and intellectual members of society. Their minds are able to withstand the overwhelming nature of the Tempest, and thus can process basic orders. They are also susceptible to a trigger for remote controls and terminations. Likely to go to NMS after that for a bit? Okay. Yeah, I beat it one time. I think I sided with... Oh, I won't tell you anything. Spoiler. Pretty sure that I sided with on my first and only run. I went with the sneaky people, the robot people or whatever. I didn't go with Brotherhood of Steel or the other ones. I went with those other guys, and I wanted to go back. And I started the game on many occasions. I started it on the mode where you can only save on exit. And my game would crash, on my older computer. So I'd get 3 hours down the road without having saved. My game would crash, and it just sucked. So, I gave up on it. Institute, that's what it was. Gonna make a save where I can do multiple. Yeah, that's a smart thing to do. Rather than I'm very optimistic. I'm like, oh, I'll play through it again and do the other way, but who has time for all that? The suited individuals are the most affluent, especially when there's zombies to kill. Their minds are able to withstand. Okay, these are the executives.
Who do you want me to punish?
We're supposed to believe that they're the smartest of the bunch. Chamber 9's 10, 11, and 12. The ultimate in control. This is the basis for our true goal for the Tempest. The Solomon 4 are synthesized from the Prosperous and subject AB- with different ratios. Solomon 1 remains in the lab, while Solomon 4 has shown the most promise. Solomon 1 is inactive, 2 deceased, 3 unknown, 4 active. What is this, Macaulay? Is that you, Johnny? Is Ava your sister? Are you okay, John? Wait. Ava turns to Macaulay. That's my brother, but he's different. He looks too old, has a different physique. His face isn't quite the same. It's like he's been merged with someone else. What's going on, Macaulay? Not only that, Macaulay, but he looks a bit like you. What is going on? I say we should shoot him? What? That's my brother. We can't shoot him. He isn't your brother. How do you know for sure? He isn't moving. He isn't alive. He isn't me. Well, then we don't need to shoot him. None of this is making any sense. We should follow the tunnel further. Okay, but please don't shoot this person. Let's follow this town a little further. Maybe we'll find some answers.
Death, lovely death.
We didn't kill the other guy either on the island. We saved him.
That's a certain kill. It's a nice day to die. right.
Interesting noise. So destroy it.
To the death.
Thank goodness, I feel better, lighter. My mind is clear. What the heck is that thing? We should keep going to find answers.
Last night I dreamt of brains
Down here.
exploding.
Whatever you say.
She gets
As
killed
long
by
as you
something.
pay
I
me.
am not. What are those? Are those mutants?
What?
Oh, Thanatos.
What?
Verawak?
Put this awesome
Kensei
body to
TV?
use.
How funny is that? Oh, what the heck? I can't see him anymore.
You are gonna pay me for this, right? You order, you pay. What?
XY
you
Omega
sure?
Lab.
Gotcha.
Let's go see who else is
hold
featured
that,
down here.
man.
What?
We got Verawak,
Let's
Kensei,
put this awesome
Deadly
body to
Optics. I'm Kibitz, Sirsik,
Stop staring at
Kares
my
Mua.
muscles.
Check him out.
What's up? Any
Congrats,
invented
Car. I watched I'm Kibitz play like the easy mode of this a long time ago, and I can't watch that guy. That's just me.
Like a snake with its prey. Yeah. I smell this coming.
You guys know I'm not extremely talkative, and he's talkative and loud. So music starts playing. If it is too loud, then please turn down, which is fine. I don't know. And it was like easy mode, and he was like making a big deal out of it, like the first level, and I was like, oh, can't do this. If it's too loud, then please turn down your speaker headphone volume, or you have the power to make it stop. What's this? So music starts playing. If it's too loud, then please turn down your speaker, or if you have the power to make it stop. Keep it playing. It sounds sweet. Child, I've been waiting for you to return. What have you done to Johnny? I'm not talking to you, Ranger. The one you call John served a great purpose. He would not be stood here today without him. Who is he? Who are you? Are you the Witch of the Woods? That's what the local folks have come to call me. My preferred name is Sycorax. I'm responsible for the Tempest and everything that came after. I mean, so we just kill you now, right? Yes, Tempest, how did you create it? Short on time, can you get to the point? We'll do the long one in case folks haven't seen this. I got to the final map before, and then I went to do some campaigns. We did Soldiers Only 800% no pause, and we did the Rangers Only 800% no pause. So it's been a couple months since I went through this. Tempest is my life work, set upon the world to bring order. Quite simply, the Tempest was to be a way of controlling people. Social discontent was on the rise, and a group formed from the top 1%, and the top 1% known as the Prosperous. They were struggling to maintain control of the world through traditional politics and power, be it wealth or influence. They needed to find a better way, a more guaranteed way to control the population of the world. They wanted the people to think they were acting upon their own free will, when in fact their actions were defined by the Prosperous. When the Prosperous approached me in the early 21st century, I was 25 years old, misunderstood, ignored by society. I had a brilliant mind, a young son called Caliban, and the Prosperous saw our potential. I spent the next 15 years developing my ideas and concepts, put them into reality. Eventually, in 2016, my work was complete. I used a plant known as Devil's Breath as the basis for Project Tempest to control a mind. I developed a neurotoxin bonded with a tree pollen. This became known as the Tempest. Over the next 2 years, it was unknowingly spread all around the world. Not exactly. The tests up to this point were largely successful. One problem was the weak-minded were completely brainwashed by the Tempest, but this was viewed as an unintended success. Why try and control the free will of someone when you can wipe their mind clean and rewrite them not to have free will? The idea and principle was wonderful, but over the 15 years it became more and more engulfed by my work. My son, now himself in his 20s, was being ignored just as I had been before I began work on the Tempest. My son Caliban, I developed in his own way, failed to notice this. Parents were the greatest influence on a child's upbringing. I was hardly there for him, but in my absence, his mind developed far beyond what I could ever comprehend. A decade into the project, and I still had a number of stumbling blocks to overcome before completing the templates. I would be muttering a problem out loud, and he would offer a solution to the problem, and it wasn't long before he was fully helping out on the project. But what Caliban didn't say to me was that he saw what the Prosperous were doing, using me as a means to an end. My value to them was my work. He had no evidence, but his mind had hypothesized this theory and injected it into his reality. So Caliban was prepared. The Tempest had been spread around the world, and the majority of the people had unwittingly inhaled the tree pollen, and the neurotoxin had spread to their nerve tissues, ready for a trigger to activate the control. What happened next? Prosperous, naturally being the self-appointed elite guards of society, were not weak-minded. Tests on subjects with the highest intelligence showed that they could be controlled, but only to a certain degree, such as a trained dog, loyal and able to perform on demand, but not always reliably, nor were they able to carry out advanced tasks. Furthermore, as we didn't want to entirely decimate society, we developed the Tempest so that the rarest blood type, namely AB negative, would be immune to the virus that leads to the neurotoxin spreading to the nervous system. We'd all had blood transfusions, but Caliban had devised a plan to have the Prosperous be given the wrong blood type, so they all became infected with the Tempest and became the suited individuals you have come across. The trigger was a simple and specific radio wave frequency that, when transmitted, would trigger the neurotoxin, allowing a person to be controlled through the signal. Prosperous arranged for the biggest protests and riots the world had ever seen, a large, coordinated protest that incorporated a wide range of themes from climate change to government corruption. It was all televised, of course. People all over the world were watching it on television. Then at the peak viewing time, the activation signal was transmitted from the most powerful radio tower ever built. Is that the tower I destroyed to get you? It's one like it. This is only a satellite lab, and the tower here was a relay control tower that is malfunctioning. It has begun misfiring and is now ineffective. Luckily, the locals here have already been under my influence. That is until you came along. Called me your child earlier. What happened to Johnny? You are not my biological son like Caliban. Johnny, like the locals here, has been invaluable in developing the next stage of the Tempest. The Prosperous were under the control of myself and Caliban, whilst much of the world had been brainwashed. But the mass brainwashing had an undesirable consequence. With their minds erased, people began to revert back to their primeval state of mind, survival at all costs. This meant the infected had a natural instinct to kill those who were a threat. Anyone who hadn't been brainwashed became a target to be slaughtered. The world descended into chaos. We continued our research to develop the Tempest further and achieve our goal, total control. Caliban developed a way to splice DNA together to find the perfect complexion. We began by using the members of the Prosperous that we had some control over. We also developed a new trigger that wasn't limited by the range of a radio signal. Trigger became the words, "Long live the Tempest." When a Prosperous suited individual said these words, it would trigger the infection in them. We were also able to use infected individuals as a proxy to infect others as we whisper the words, "We are the Tempest." This was all well and good, but we wanted better control, so we needed non-infected survivors to do further tests. That's why we set up a satellite base here in the safe haven, so we could have a pool of people to experiment on. Over time, the kidnapping of colonists from the nearby camp developed them into a religious cult, which made it even easier for us. Then John Lockhart was picked about 3 years ago, and he held the key. Ava, you and your brother have a rare trait in that you both have AB negative types, which is why you were both immune to the Tempest. We were able to bond the DNA of your brother and that of a Prosperous to create our own controllable prototype. Still took several attempts to get the formula right. The first attempt remains in this lab. 50% DNA was from John, 50% from a Prosperous, but this was a failure, and the individual had no consciousness at all. We created 2 more iterations with different ratios, different Prosperous individuals. They were named Mackenzie and McCracken. 2 years ago, we placed them on a field test in the North Scotland so that we could see how they performed. The Tempest in them was such that they were fully conscious but completely unaware that they were doing our commands. First, we had McCracken draw infected into the tunnels below Kirkwall to snuff out their original expansion onto the mainland. Then, when the time was right, more recently, we allowed a Prosperous-suited man to be captured and brought back to Kirkwall. But our control of them wasn't perfect. Occasionally, their subconscious blocked our commands, as you found out when they helped you escape Kirkwall, and their minds couldn't comprehend the truth about them being created in a lab. Why weren't they infected originally? The remaining AB negative blood type survivors from around the world flocked there, other remote treeless islands to escape and live on. Caliban wanted the survivors eradicated so that his mother and son would control the world. My softer maternity instincts compelled me to come to a compromise agreement with the leaders of Kirkwall. They could live in peace and continue humanity, but on the condition that they could not step off the islands. Around 9 months ago, Kirkwall started building colonies on the mainland. Tempest was still present, but something was stopping the signal that should have infected them. Just before this, alongside McCracken and Mackenzie in the north of Scotland, we just placed our final and finest creation infused with the Tempest. His name was Macaulay. Caliban was jealous of our creation as I saw Macaulay as my flawless child. Caliban never got enough attention growing up, and now he could see I was fully focused on Macaulay. So this is why I have no memories? Yes, 9 months ago you were formulated in a lab, but since your deployment we haven't been able to control you. I didn't know why until now. Since Ava and Johnny were siblings, Macaulay is the perfect infusion of DNA from Johnny the Prosperous. It seems together you form an extremely powerful subconsciousness that blocks the Tempest. It's also inhibited the infection and control of those around you. Without you, Macaulay, the invasion of the mainland would have been doomed and everyone would be infected and controlled by now. Caliban was furious, wanted to punish Kirkwall immediately. He started challenging the Tempest to do so that it could be carried in water and also control all blood types. But this meant he had to find another way to make us both immune. He devised a way to alter our bone marrow and rapidly produce a new blood type, XY, but in the rage of jealousy and the rush to make us immune, he made a mistake. Our bodies mutated, we ended up in these giant monstrosities. It was during this time when I and Caliban truly went our separate ways. I told Caliban he had gone too far. I implored him to stop and that his vision was madness, but he wouldn't listen. He said I had grown weak, become useless. We were both powerful mind controllers. Our conflict caused great confusion in our subjects, but his mind was stronger than mine. He was able to subdue me. He still recognized me as his mother, and he spared my life, but he imprisoned me here so that I couldn't stop him. This caused much confusion in the Tempest. The prosecuted individuals. These blunders allowed Kirkwall to expand further south, but Caliban saw this as the perfect opportunity to put our two controllable creations to test. He had Mackenzie gather a stash of the Tempest neurotoxin from the Dune Ray Materials test reactor to take to Kirkwall. Kraken then distributed it in the water supply in and around Kirkwall. By the time he arrived at Kirkwall, it was too late to block the Tempest. Sensing victory, Caliban was changed for the worse in many ways. He no longer cared for this world and looked further afield. Placed with fear of what he had become, but without the love of his mother, he lost himself in his own mind and became even worse. He lacks a cornerstone to keep him tied to reality, and now he is no longer content controlling just humanity. He wants to control every atom in the universe. In his mind, he believes that by controlling enough minds, he would control not just the nervous systems of a person, but the very fabric of time and space. As a child, he was obsessed with space, the stars, the moon, and now it seems he has reverted to this obsession. Once he took control of the Tempest Project, he wanted to pull the moon to the Earth to destroy the lesser beings on the planet, and then use the moon as his vessel to travel the universe. He's definitely lost touch with reality. As much as a mother wants to believe in and help their child follow their dream, with or without the moon coming crashing to Earth, his vision to control everything and everyone. The Tempest is not reversible. If everyone on the planet becomes infected and falls under his command, then there will be nothing left other than Caliban. That's why I called you here. His mind grows more powerful as he controls more and more. Eventually, everyone around you, Macaulay, will turn against you. They are billions, you are one. So what happens now? Macaulay, you are my proudest creation, but no longer fostered by me. I believe you are your own person. So, if he crashes the moon, how the Earth moon to the Earth, both are destroyed. How would he travel on it? I don't know, dude. That's he's got some weird ideas. He'd be floating in cold isolation, suffocating, dying very quickly. But I sense another. I thought it was the Tempest itself, but it feels like someone else. I am in control. But are you? Do you really decide what you want to say, or is your free will being manipulated? I do not know myself, but maybe Caliban knows more. Our main lab was on the Isle of Wight, an island to the south of England, and that is where he went to develop his plans to control everyone and everything. First, you must destroy the controller tower in London. The more minds he controls, the stronger he is. By removing his control of the millions of infected in London, you'll weaken him enough to be able to land on the Isle of Wight. Otherwise, you and your friends will be overwhelmed by Caliban. The final phase will then be to kill Caliban. Caliban is my son. No parent should see their child die before them. So before you leave the lab, please kill me now. No, we'll let you suffer.
So many targets, gonna love it. Yeah,
You want a bowl of soup in the ceiling?
all right.
Yeah. We just have
Yeah.
a bowl of soup.
Roll it out. Let's go.
I can probably
Like
finish
snake
that
with
little
its
half
prey.
that I
Let's go.
started. Yeah.
Yeah.
Macaulay and Ava walk away from the giant, head out the cave lab. It turns out the cave exits onto some cliffs on the Wales coast, so they walk out into the bright sunshine. Macaulay and Ava have learned the secrets of the Tempest from its creator, Sycorax, who revealed that her son Caliban has taken over the project. He is now looking to control everyone and then everything on the planet before wanting to destroy it. Caliban has his base on the Isle of Wight. We kind of went over all this. Okay. Perfect score.